Now, let's bring in two members of the Parliamentary Press Gallery who have been with us regularly throughout the campaign. Susan Delacourt's a columnist for the Toronto Star, and John Ivison's a columnist for the National Post and Parliamentary Bureau Chief for Post Media. He's been following, I think, the Singh campaign of late. John, let me start with you. So you're traveling with Jagmeet Singh. What's the sense on Election Day inside that camp about what could happen tonight?
They're pretty confident. I mean, they're not overconfident. I don't think they think they're going to get 109 seats like as they did in 2011. But I think they think they're going to make gains, and I think they're probably right. It won't be spectacular, but I think in their mind, if there's a Liberal minority government, and they alone can be the balance of power, then that would be a great result for them. And I think what most of the polling suggests that's quite likely.
Susan, what are you going to be watching for tonight as we watch these election results unfold yet once again in this country, and what's shaping up to be another tight race? Where do you think the story is for you tonight?
Well, the story of the past two campaigns, at least for the Liberals, has been in their ground game. It won them a majority in 2015 when they had gone in there thinking minority was the best they could hope for. And in 2019, it probably saved their bacon. They have a very extensive digital ground campaign that works with the people on the ground, and it has constantly surprised us. And so I am going to see whether that has turned out for Trudeau tonight, or whether it is whether the Conservatives have upped their game on that too. I think we're going to know that in Quebec for sure, but as soon as it hits Ontario. Right. Definitely.
John, the Liberals, we just showed the numbers needed, 170 for majority government. At dissolution, the Liberals had 155. All the polls pointing to the likelihood of another minority government. But what's really interesting is where the sort of vote is concentrated, where that support's concentrated. Liberals tend to do better in Ontario, and I suppose what I'm trying to say is that you can look at popular support numbers, but a lot of the Tory support's centralized in the prairies and in Western Canada. So what are your thoughts on how this might unfold tonight?
Well, I think that the Liberal vote is not particularly as motivated, I suspect, as the Conservative vote or even the NDP vote. Even people who are still loyal to the Liberal brand are having problems with the Prime Minister, including the Toronto Star, which said it was going to endorse him, albeit reluctantly. So that may have an impact. I mean, I think that the electorate generally gets what it wants, which is incredible when you think of the millions of voters. But generally, 2004, they wanted to smack the Liberals, but they didn't want Harper. By 2006, they were ready for Harper, but they didn't want to give him a majority, and so on. And my feeling is that this time, voters probably want to stick with the Liberals, moderated by the NDP, and they probably don't want to give Justin Trudeau too big an increase in seats, because that would be a reward for calling an election that most of them, or many people, feel was unnecessary. So I think that's the way the polls are looking. That's what I have a gut feeling is going to happen, but I don't think majority is out of the question for Trudeau, particularly if there's a late shift from the progressive vote. I mean, I have to say we haven't seen that, and Singh was in BC yesterday mostly in opposition-held ridings, and I think they're hoping that they're going to pick up seats. But if that vote collapses, then majority is on the cards.
Yeah, Susan, talk to me about that. To John's point, could we see a shift in these final hours here as people actually go to the ballot box? Noting we should that almost 20% increase in advanced polling in this election. So those people have already voted and may have missed the final day's sort of plea to the supporters of other parties to come across and join the Liberals, or in some cases join the Conservatives. But this election was called with the objective, the Liberals, of trying to win a majority government. And then that brings us into the framing of the question for Canadians. Talk to me about whether you think the party leaders have been successful in trying to frame the ballot question for Canadians. How effective have they been?
I've been really struck, and I was just thinking about this morning, actually, about how much this election has been about leaders. That in a time where, for the past year and a half, a lot of people have been dealing with their local MPs. It's been a campaign all about leaders. Aaron O'Toole put his face and his buff body on the cover of the platform. Trudeau, a lot of this was about the protests against him, ranging from mild disappointment to outright anger. Jagmeet Singh has conducted a campaign very much about his own leadership and likability. It is really striking how much we have focused on leaders and not much on the team or the local candidates in a time when government was supposed to have been brought closer to the people during the pandemic. So no matter what happens tonight, this is a referendum for all the leaders on themselves, because they put themselves front and center on the ballot and tried to frame a ballot box question around leadership. Right. I had thought we might have other issues discussed in this election, but it's been a leadership election.
What are your thoughts on that, John?
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, the Conservatives and even the NDP have tried to make it about trust, and Justin Trudeau and the calling of the election is the frame of that trust. If you can't trust him on that, what can you trust him on? Trudeau has tried to push policies and basically say, look, you won't get this stuff, childcare, his climate change plan, etc., if you re-elect one of the other guys. But clearly has been, they went negative very early, and it was hard to see where they were going to go from there, but they just kept on negative. It's hard to see how that plays out, but I do think that the sense that Justin Trudeau has not earned his majority is the the one that might stop him getting that majority.
Let's talk about that possibility. Susan, if we see another minority parliament, what do you think the message will be to the party leaders, and talk a little bit about possible lifespan here? We've just come through 2 elections in 2 years here. How soon before we would see another one? If we're basically returned with the same shape of parliament.
That's sort of my nightmare, is that we went all through this for Groundhog Day, and that we're going to end up with just the mess we had before we went in. I think there will be a lot of reflection in every party. I don't know that there is a move of any kind to force Trudeau out. We're not like we've seen in past Liberal party structures. But I do think there are going to be a lot of questions. In 2019, a lot of the candidates who won felt that they won despite Trudeau, not because of him, as they had in 2015. That's going to be even more the case, even if he gets his minority. People are going to think that candidates, rightly so, are going to think they fought for this one as well. And there will be questions around leadership for Trudeau. I don't know, though, that it's going to be a coup, but it will, or pushing him out. But I think the questions are going to be a lot more pointed in the Liberal circles after tonight, no matter what.
Yeah, John, what are your thoughts on how safe all of these leaders are, depending on the outcome?
Well, I'm fairly confident that all the parties will take the wrong conclusions from this election if it plays out as we think it's going to, and that Trudeau will see it as an endorsement of everything he's done. The Conservative Party will think that their moderation and trying to detoxify the brand was the wrong move, and they'll go the other way. Jagmeet Singh will feel that if he gets any more seats, that this idea of squeezing the rich is a good one, and he should continue down that path without worrying too much about economic growth or jobs. And Maxime Bernier will feel that the anger that people feel in the pandemic is probably something he can build on, and it's going to be that level of anger is going to be there forever, which let's hope it is not. So yeah, I'm not too optimistic about the future if things play out the way they look. Yeah,
well, let's finish on that. A lot of questions tonight as well about voter turnout. Just exactly how many people, given the kind of campaign it's been, whether people will bother to vote, whether they'll be put off trying to vote because of some of the restrictions at polling stations because of the pandemic. But there, if and again, there's lots of ifs here. But one way or the other, it seems no matter where these results land tonight and the outcome, it'll be a very divided country in terms of the way forward, Susan. And I wonder how serious of a problem you think that might be, because we're still going to have a pandemic, we're still going to have questions about vaccinations, we're still going to have COVID cases, and we're still going to have differing visions of how to handle one of the most difficult times in Canadian history. So talk to me about that.
You know, this has not been an election fought on collaboration or in trying to reconcile differences between the parties. And elections are competitive exercises, I understand that. But Canadians have said over and over again they want parties to cooperate together. They want the premiers to work together. There's a lot of broken glass to sweep up this week and next. And that the channeling of anger toward Maxime Bernier's party is something Canadians are going to have to take a look at, just so that we don't end up like they are in the United States. So, yeah, this is a sweep-up operation for the next little while. Okay.
John, your thoughts on that, as what kind of a country we might be left with and the way forward?
Yeah, I think, you know, I didn't particularly have a problem with the fact we're having an election now. I mean, elections happen, and nobody generally wants them. But I did find it disturbing the way that the vaccination issue was politicised. And, you know, I think the Prime Minister's got to take a lot of responsibility for that. I mean, clearly the level of dehumanisation from what he called the anti-vax mob towards him and the other parties is unacceptable, and certainly the violence was unacceptable. We've got a democratic process. Today we're going through what I call Canada's blessing, which is the peaceful transfer or not of power. And we've, you know, it's a very cherished thing in this country. But I think the Prime Minister, as he was being delegitimised and dehumanised, did the same thing to the protesters. And I think that lumping, you know, more than 10% of the population in as an anti-vax mob has created divisions that are going to be very hard to heal. And I think that if he is re-elected, some humility and some healing is going to be required. Whoever wins, I think, is going to have a job on their hands to bring this country back together again.
All right. Lots to watch for in the hours ahead here. Susan Delacourt, John Ivison. Always good to speak with you. Thanks for your time today, and have a great election day. And we'll talk later.
Thanks, Peter.
Happy election day.
Take care.